Welcome back to Coast Vue. I really enjoyed that conversation. Hey, I meant to share at the beginning of the show that I got a note. I talk about sort of the success of the store, the show on Facebook, and I'm able to get a lot of numbers. We're able to get numbers on Facebook across multiple platforms. Of course, SuperTalk has multiple pages, and this is just the Coast Vue page. But I got a note that said that we had 76 straight days of engagement increase. Just in the past 28 days, impressions are up 275%. We've gone over the 60,000 mark, and post reach is over 50,000 now, which is essentially just good measurements to let us know that people are significantly engaged in Coast Vue. That's just a Coast Vue site. That doesn't count SuperTalk Mississippi. It doesn't count SuperTalk Gulf Coast. And I just want to thank you for continuing to be engaged in the program. We really appreciate it. So now let's move over to my friend Billy Knight, the mayor of the city of Moss Point, and one of my coastal Mississippi heroes for many, many reasons. How you doing, Mayor?
I'm doing fine, Rick. Good to see you again, Rick. I haven't seen you in a while.
It's good to see you too. And it's interesting that Cami and I, the success of the show, the good thing about the success of the show is we have so many people who want to be on the show. That's good. We want to tell their stories for sure. But there are certain people we always want to try to circle back to. That's the one thing I want to, and the mayors, especially the mayors, I want to be able to circle back to. And I've enjoyed telling your story. And I tell your story all the time. As a guy doesn't have to be mayor. You could have rode off into the sunset a long time ago. A guy in his 80s that has, sort of reinvented yourself, I don't know how many times, and you're still most well-dressed mayor on the coast, maybe in Mississippi, maybe in the United States for that matter. But I admire your diligence and your passion for your community, and the fact that you see your role as giving back. And you're just sort of a living legend for me. But how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fine, Rick. I'm glad to be one of those mayors you want to circle back to, Rick, every now and then. It makes me feel like I'm still relevant here and have something to offer, and that's what it's all about, man. That's why I'm still out here, because I feel like I still have something to offer, and God has blessed me with good health, and I want to keep giving back, Rick, because that's what it's all about, man. In the end, it's whatever you've done for me lately.
Isn't that true? Listen, what's interesting about your story is that you came into a city that you believed needed leadership, and one of the first things you did is you put recreation in the city as a high priority, and you got tremendous support to do that. How is that? Why don't you kind of remind people what that's all about, and give us kind of an update on how that's coming together?
Yeah, Rick, that is one of the top things I had on our platform was recreation. But Rick, I tied it to public safety, because at the time we were having a lot of crime in Moss Point. There was a lot of drugs going on in Moss Point, and some of it I thought was because our young people just didn't have enough to do. And we had not had a recreation program in almost 3 years. And so the kids was idle, didn't have anything to do. And my mother and father told me many years ago, Isle of Mind is the devil's workshop. If you don't keep the kids busy, they're going to find something to do. And what they find to do, you might not like what they find to do. So if you want to kind of direct that path, you better have something organized for them to do every day. So my mother and father kept me busy in some type of sports activity and going to the library and those kind of things. So it kept me always busy and out of trouble. So I saw this as a public safety issue. Now, the citizens of Moss Point, or the leadership of Moss Point, had tried to get a 2% bid, and 2% tax on food and beverages in the past, but they were not able to get it passed. And it takes 60% to get those kind of things passed. And so we tried it again when I got in here, and we made people aware of the importance of it. I think the selling issue was that I tried to remind our people that our kids were going to other cities to participate in recreation activities, and they were having to pay to participate in other cities. So I asked the question, why should we take care of our own kids? Why should we have to let our kids go somewhere else for a service that we should be providing? And so the people believed and agreed with what I said, and we passed that by 86% of the vote, Rick. 86% of the people that voted in that election says, yes, we should provide for our own kids. So it is about recreation, Rick, but it's also about public safety. Now that we got our program up and going, kids are busy. They got a lot of activities to do. Got something going on every season. There's something going on. This weekend on the 25th, we're starting what we call hoops with basketball, but we're going to have a lot of basketball going on where police department and fire department are playing against young men, and we got a real busy there, and kids are going to be excited about it. Got a pretty much all-day activity going on. That's just one of the things, Rick, but just remember, the most important thing for me is that it was tied to public safety. Recreation is public safety. If you keep them busy, you're not going to have to try to gangbangers that you normally have. Kids going to be active, doing something positive. It's always about public safety.
Well, it's a great vision, and the support, 86% of voters supporting you, is just it's an overwhelming statement about how you've created alignment in the community around this important community goal. How's it going? What are the next steps and so on?
Well, the next step is, we're trying to get funding now to really develop a plan, an overall plan for recreation. We don't want to just do the traditional things, but now that we got that passed, the money hadn't started coming in yet. We expect it to start probably next month, late February or March. But the idea now for me is develop a plan for recreation overall. I don't want to just be hitting and missing or doing the traditional thing, but I want to develop a master plan for our recreation program so that we'll have a real plan and a guide that we know every year this is what we're going to be doing. So in the meantime, though, we are doing our regular activities, football, basketball, baseball, those kind of things. We're doing a lot of exercise programs for young people. And we're also doing things for the elderly as well. We want to include everybody from what we call the cradle to the grave. So we're trying to include everybody in our recreation program because everybody wants some type of recreation. So the main thing now, Rick, is keeping our main program going, but also develop a master plan so that whoever come behind me will have a plan to work with to say, you don't have to be guessing every day or every season what you're going to be doing. This is the master plan. And part of that master plan, Rick, is going to be a sports complex. Again, why does every other city have a real nice sports complex but Moss Point? That's a tourism idea. If you got a good recreation activities throughout your city, it could be a tourism possibility. That's what other cities are doing. Gulfport and those cities are bringing baseball and those kind of things around, and they got all kinds of people staying for the whole weekend just for baseball. So why can't we find what niche we can do right here in Moss Point and have some type of tourism out of this recreation activity? That's the next step. That's what the master plan is all about. What is it that we can do that other cities are not doing that we can make a tourism out of recreation?
What I love about it is, and there's a lot to unravel there, but you certainly, there's this direct correlation between the innovative recreational programs that you will build and create, excuse me, and the reduction in crime. That if you can keep kids busy and engaged, and around mentors actually who are involved in those programs, that the good things are going to happen. Then on top of that, you have, it's proven, in fact, that these recreational complexes that you just mentioned, whether it involves, softball or baseball or soccer, what those facilities have done for those communities, and this is across the nation, to create hotels that come in and families come to stay. The tourism dimension to that is literally undeniable. I like the fact that you guys, the community has bought the vision. You've gotten the community bought into the vision. And now the next step is to say, okay, how do we make sure that what we're doing engages the best practices from across the United States? How do we make what we're going to do in Moss Point innovative? How do we kill several birds with one stone in an innovative way, using the best technologies, using the best possibilities, and then unveil that to the community and do it in phases and say, here's where we're going to go. This is the money we have now. We're going to seek money to do this phase and this opportunity. And then when you connect that back to what your vision for what's happening at I-10, and I mean, all these dots connect together in very, very magical ways, don't they?
It does. I mean, educationally, we're working, trying to help, our school district get better. And we're making some progress in that area with a new superintendent. So it's all about education, too, with recreation, And you're right, Rick, about, let's go look at, I'm a big believer, Rick, of not having to reinvent the wheel if you don't have to. There's a lot of good, I would say, great recreation programs across the state. And Gulfport again, and Biloxi is one of them. Why can't we go see what they're doing? We may not be able to emulate everything, but there are some ideas that they're doing that we can benefit from. And so let's go look and see what they're doing. As we build this master plan, let's get some of these other cities what they're doing and make the best of ours. And try to be holistic about the whole thing. Let's don't pigeonhole ourselves, but let's be holistic about it. To have a broad scope of plan, have a big vision about what we want to do, and then plan it out and make sure you can afford it. Do one phase at a time and phase these things in as you go. And at the same time, people are enjoying what you're doing as you're phasing these things in. And over a 5 or 10 year period of time, you'll have a real program here that everybody will emulate.
There's no doubt about that. We're visiting with Mayor Billy Knight from Moss Point, and we'll talk on the other side about the I-10 interchange there, that they want to create a giant sucking sound into their city. We'll talk more about that here in just a second. Welcome back to Coast Vue. I'm visiting with my friend, the mayor of the city of Moss Point, Billy Knight, and it occurs to me, and I mentioned this during the break, that we have to get together more often. There's a lot of reasons. Obviously, I want to get an update on what's happening in Moss Point. I want the coast and the state to hear the good things that are happening in Moss Point. And I want everyone who's listening or watching this on YouTube or Facebook or your favorite podcast listening, I want you to have access to the mind and the heart and the soul of Billy Knight. What an incredible inspiration he is. When we went to break, we were talking about what I would say, how I would describe the interchange coming off of I-10 into Moss Point as literally sort of the art of the long view. You've got a great vision there. The opportunities are significant. Remind people what that vision is, and then we'll update them on what the latest is.
Yeah, the vision, Rick, is to develop that corridor. We're talking about I-10 and Highway 63. That is a corridor that is really exceptional here on the Gulf Coast. To have that kind of connectivity from Alabama into the other part of the Gulf Coast, going into New Orleans and Texas. We have a great opportunity here in Moss Point to develop that corridor. But it does take time, but the leaders before me did see the vision to get that process started. So what I'm doing is really trying to put the metal to the pedal to move this thing as fast as we can. What I do, Rick, is ask our people every time I talk about this to be patient. You got to be patient with us because these things take time. We finally got our engineer approved that's going to manage and oversee that project. That in itself was a long process, just making sure you get bids out and select the right engineer to oversee this work because it's important strategic work. So we got an engineer now, and the work is underway. People just will not see it because there's a lot of permitting that has to take place. There's a lot of grading, reviewing, and observing of the material of the land and looking at houses that you might have to buy out, those kind of things. All that work, the Corps of Engineers have to be involved in some of these things, wetlands that you got to negotiate. So there's a lot of things that's going on that people do not see, but I want our people to know that as of this month of February, the beginning of January, at the beginning of the new year, work began out there, and they just don't see it. But eventually you'll be able to see things happening out there. And the plan, Rick, is in front of Cracker Barrel. Everybody kind of know where Cracker Barrel, the idea is to open that service road up in front of Cracker Barrel and those hotels, open that service road up to connect to 613, Highway 613. Therefore, when people are coming off the interstate, they have another access to get to that service road and to those hotels and Cracker Barrel and those kind of things. That's on the south side of I-10. On the north side of I-10, we'll be doing the same kind of thing, putting in the infrastructure. That's what it's all about. It's opening that road up, but also putting in the infrastructure that is necessary in that area, water, gas, and those kind of things. But Rick, on 6-3, on the Highway 6-3 that connects with I-10, most of the plumbing, most of the infrastructure out there is in place. So Rick, just this month, we announced that Chevrolet, Dodge, and Jeep, as I speak, is clearing off that property, bringing in dirt. They hope to open up by spring of this year. On 6-3, Arby's is going to be opening up. Arby's restaurant is going to be opening up probably by the end of this month. Captain D's restaurant is coming out there right down the street from Arby's. We're expecting to have at least 2 or 3 more announcements of business, substantial business that's coming on Highway 6-3. So as we work on I-10, 6-3, Highway 6-3 is also being developed with retail businesses. So I believe, Rick, that 2023 is going to be a very positive year for Moss Point as far as economic development and retail sales. So
and what I would say is
excited about it, Rick.
Yeah, Moss Point residents, to get an idea if they are just sort of locking on to this thought, go look at D'Iberville, what has happened in D'Iberville. They've used TIF bonds, tax increment financing, to create infrastructure, and you see what's happened there. The interchange that was added there that takes you into where Mandel's has built, I think now 3 dealerships, and tremendous development potentially coming to that area. To do an interchange, to do adjustments to the interchange, et cetera, it takes a long time. That's why I call it the art of the long view. And there's nothing that in front of us at this point that would say that Moss Point can't realize that vision, except time, the time that it takes to go through the environmental assessments and all these other things that have to occur. But it is an exciting vision, especially when you consider it's the first stop in Mississippi coming in from Alabama and Florida. So will be a major plus for that city. And Mayor, we really appreciate you staying focused on it. Hey, listen, we're out of time, but it's been a pleasure to catch up with you. We promise you we will not wait so long to touch base with you again.
Rick, anytime, man. It's always good to talk with you and see you. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to talk about Moss Point.
You bet, Mayor. You're quite an inspiration. Have a great day. Have a great weekend, actually, and we'll see you on Monday.